Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another exciting episode of Vroom. My name is Shecanic, and it's always a delight to bring you yet another exciting episode where you get to learn all the good stuff. Today, if you've seen the flyer, if you haven't, go on our Facebook page right now. We are streaming live for you. What I want us to get into today really is the auto trend. Oh boy, our camera spotted some cool toys in town over the weekend. Can we see the auto trend for today? And thank you to our partners for always sending us videos. You guys are the real. Let's see the auto trend for today, please. Well, whilst we get that done, I'm going to talk about it. So the first thing we spotted was this BMW M3CS, the all-new 2025 BMW M3CS. This car is a track beast. Before I go on to talk about this car, this is something I want the owner to know. Please, if you have to drive this car, be sure you have on your helmet and be sure you have a parachute somewhere, because you need a lot of brakes to stop this. So the car that you see, that is a BMW 2025 BMW M3CS, the competition sedan in all its glory. Oh my God, that's such a beauty. So I'll tell you a little bit about that car. So half of it is really carbon fiber. The carbon fiber is from the bonnets. You see the carbon fiber spoilers, the carbon fiber bucket seats, the carbon fiber diffusers. Such a beauty. And I'll tell you what, the beauty of this car is all in its belly. It's all in this engine bay. So the car that you see is a straight line 6-cylinder engine, 3.0 liter, but it's generating a whopping 550 horsepower. So that has about 550 ponies on this one. This is why I say you need parachute to stop this, because this is a track beast. Do you see the rims, the wide spoke? These are ceramic brakes I see, with very beautiful and strong high performance calipers that I'm looking at. If you haven't seen it, go to our Facebook page right now, have a look at it. Carbon fiber roof. So let me tell you a little bit about the main design about this car and why the manufacturer chose to use the carbon fiber roof. They had to lower the center of gravity to make it a bit more lightweight. That was a design spectacle, if you ask me. That was very smart. So yes, here is your M3CS that generates 550 horsepower. Imagine 550 horses on this one. What a spectacle. Let's go on to the next car that our camera spotted. We saw the 2024 RS6 Advanced Performance. If anyone knows Shecanic, you know I am biased towards everything Audi. I think Audi is such a great combination of performance and functionality. And ladies and gentlemen, the wagon is one in its own league. This wagon actually is just one of 75 made in the world. Now let me tell you why this is special. So this is a V8 twin turbo engine. Yeah, you know, but here's a catch. It makes 624 horsepower. Ooh, you definitely need a parachute to stop this one, don't you? So the paint you're seeing, and hopefully the people at the port will understand that every car that comes with some special paint. So the owner had to pay $600 extra to get this Frollet silver metallic. It is a special paint, and you know why. You can see why. It brings out the lines and the forms of this vehicle. So as I mentioned, 624 horsepower. The brakes are, of course, ceramic brakes. And then the calipers, if you notice, I'm not sure if you can see from here, but the calipers, blue calipers, tells you they are durable, high performance calipers, brake calipers. So you know that you are safe. The tires I can see are very low profile tires, very wide. So yeah, it grips when you're doing your high speed cornering. It comes with a lot of stability, which I absolutely love. This wagon, I would say, a typical example of jack of all trades, because it gives you both the performance that you need. And if you're a family car, you can put the entire house in this car because it has a lot of storage space in the trunk. Oh, look at the lines. There's something about Audi and the fact that they just make it just a little, not too much, not mass production. This is one of 75 ever made. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our auto trend for the week. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was it for your auto trend. Let us know if you spot anything new in town, any nice toy in town. Just send it to us on Asaase. Tag us. Send us a DM on our Facebook pages, our Instagram, and tag us. We want to see the new toys in town. We want to be able to celebrate the ones, everyone that gets involved. Those that buy it, it's quite special to get a car that is one of 75, and then the BMW is one of 1,700 made. That's quite special. So congratulations to the owners. Such a great choice of vehicle. I mean, this is fantastic. Now back into the main reason that we're here. The many threats on our roads. As a biker, I'm going to start with about a month ago, the government mentioned that they were going to regulate Okada, and then there seemed to be an uproar. Everybody blaming bikers need to do this and do that, but are we turning a blind eye to the actual threats, the vulnerable group in the society? Sometimes we seem to think that, just because we had a problem with our car or had a problem with one biker, we give a blanket statement. Oh yes, these bikers have to go, these bikers have to be banned. But are we being fair at all? As drivers, as pedestrians, as policymakers, are we dealing with the issues the right way? Are we dealing with the issues head on? So before we go on to the discussion, listen to this sound that we picked. Let it be the mood for tonight. That sound, ladies and gentlemen, is quite unfortunate, but that is what these bikers face every day when they move from A to Z. When they tell their families, I'm going to work and come back, most times they don't get back again. There are lots of threats on our road. But before we get into the discussion, I would want my guests to introduce themselves. Hello, guests. So we start with Bank One. Introduce yourself.
Ladies first.
On the Vroom show, ladies are in charge. So you go first.
My name is Daniel Ashrifie. I'm also known as the Motochecker in the biking space. I'm a motorcycle riding instructor and now a motorcycle safety awareness advocate.
Nice. Then the next gentleman.
Okay, I'm Samuel Brandford-Sackey, Sales and Marketing Manager for Svanigroup Ltd. So we handle all manner of cars, anything vehicular. Yeah.
Okay, and then the Bank 3.
Hi, my name is
Hello.
Thelma Dodoo. In the biking world, I'm known as Reaper. I'm a banker and passionately also a biker. Thank you. Yes.
Nice. Passionately, I like that. Passionately, I like that. And then bank 4, who do we have?
My name is Suntaa Konogini. I work with an FMCG as a commercial planning manager. I'm a biker. Yes.
Okay, so we have with us today's academy is bikers. That's what you all have in common. Now back to the topic, the threats, the real threats. Let's start with your tales, the stories that you can share from your own experience. So this time I'm going to start with Thelma. This time I'll start with Thelma. Share with us. What got you into this space as a woman? What got you into this space?
I think it's just a drive for doing something new. I wanted to engage and socialize a lot with people because I realized most often I prefer to be at home. I was more of an introvert. But then afar, I would admire bikers. And so I got into a biking school and then got myself a biking license and then joined the group to drive some level of engagement and social advocacies. So that is precisely how I got into the group.
Right, so that is interesting. But I'm sure before you came on, you decided to be a biker, you had a certain perception about riding.
Yes, certainly. I had some reservations because just like we will discuss now, there has been a lot of instances where you see a lot of bad things happening to bikers, and especially in the southern side of Ghana, we see a lot of problems and a lot of perception about bikers. But then having been introduced to the school, we started building a positive image in relation to how bikers should ride and then how to get onto the road safely, driving in and out on a daily basis. So that is what changed my perception, especially by going through the riding school. It really helped me to change how I thought and then how I became more conscious of bikers in the industry. Yeah.
Now, the next thing that comes to mind is when you are sitting with your friends, all of you are sitting with your friends and they are talking about how bikers are reckless. And I'm sure a part of you would want to counter that in no particular order. Please share your experiences and what comes to mind in that instance.
Well, I usually would not counter that. I would mention a thing or two to them and tell them that there are no guarantees in life. The fact that you ride a motorcycle doesn't mean that you've signed your death warrant. And so you could be riding a motorcycle and still live for as long as, and you could be, they said aeroplanes are the safest means of transportation.
Yep.
Maybe your first time in an aeroplane and a plane crashes. So there are no guarantees in life. When they speak, I let them speak. Sometimes it's because of our own doings.
Yes.
As motorcyclists, we've not necessarily given a very good account of ourselves. And so it's left a sour taste in people's mouths. So sometimes when they speak, you allow them to speak, let them vent, and then you correct them as you go along. Yes.
Agree. Is it the same for you, Samuel?
Yeah, 100%. I see the issue here as, with these commercial riders, Okada, and all these other forms of, they have, when you talk about motorcycles, that's what normally comes to people's minds. Everybody's mind goes to those guys, and we are all put in the same basket. But through the efforts of people like Dan, Motochecker, and making the public know that it's not, we are all not like that, and we are trying to change that perception. We don't jump light, we gear up properly. In fact, when myself, as a person, when I started riding during my uni days, and my mom was not happy about that whole transaction, and one day I had an accident and I just stopped riding for a very long time, finished school and started riding again. And in that time, it was only the helmet, no gloves, no jacket, no nothing. It's just, but looking at that time and now, there's a lot of improvement in the space.
Yes, as you mentioned, all thanks to Daniel. Yes. But Suntaa, did you have any restriction? He mentioned his mom didn't like the idea. Did you go through any restrictions when you were getting
I still have restrictions now. Sometimes I need to negotiate 2 weeks with my wife before I sit on a motorbike. There are times I need to negotiate 3 weeks ahead of time. But I just think that it's all about the culture and how people perceive other road users, in relation to motorbikers. And so generally you hear everyone say it's not safe riding, but we have been riding for so many years now, and God being so good, we haven't had any major instances. So I just think that it's about how other road users relate to motorbikers when they see them on the road.
If you ask me, I'm thinking that it's how the movies that we watched back in the day, when I would watch movies from Nollywood, it's always the bad person comes in on a motorcycle wearing black. That has always been a thing. So movies, I think, has a big part of how we think. Has it been like that for you with you, Thelma, in the past?
Yes, I wouldn't necessarily even say Nollywood, but the foreign movies we even watched when we were growing up. If someone is on a motorcycle, you are looking for some wild action.
That's true.
Yes, exactly. You're looking for some wild action and something related to guns and drugs and trouble. So gradually, I think that is also evolving. Yes, a lot of people are riding more, and then even the movies are also changing the narrative a bit now for the foreign movies as well. And even in Ghana now, you realize that the advocacy is also changing the way a lot of people ride in Ghana as well. So yes, that is it.
I'm yet to see a James Bond on a motorcycle.
In that same vein, I've been riding for a very long time. People have called on me to ride in movies and stuff like that. What you were talking about, that perception, I've turned down those things because over time, these things have built up in our minds, and so we see every motorcyclist as someone who is a bad person. Anytime you're on a motorcycle, they're expecting some wild action, like she said. And so I've turned down a lot of movie roles, like come and ride because of this particular thing. I'll turn it down because it's not helping clean the image up.
That is good.
And so over time, movies have a way of imprinting things in our minds, and so when they are imprinted, it will be with us forever. And so if you're a motorcyclist and they call you to come and do something wild in a movie or in a video clip on a motorcycle, please turn it down.
Turn it down, turn it down. So you just heard from Daniel. He says, turn it down. We are not in to show any bad things as motorcyclists. I totally agree. Now let's go into the real threats on our road. Every day we see things. Not too long ago at Oponglo or Shiashi, I saw an abandoned truck with no triangle, no warning, just at the curve. Abandoned truck, and I'm sure it will be there until Isifu, his mechanic, comes to put his head under the car, exposing his legs out, and it will be like that for the next 3 days. The authorities see it, we all see it, and we walk past. It reminds me of the story in the Bible where he was going to pray and he had his camel, he fell sick, and the rich man passed him, the one with the camel passed, and everyone just passed him. And trust me, all these people Sundays, they'll go to church and pray. So we always just look on until something bad happens. What has been your threats, the threats you see on the road? I'll start with Suntaa this time.
So for me, I think the threats are a lot, and there's one thing that Dan says almost all the time in his videos is the fact that we are the most vulnerable. I would say why. It's because we are on two wheels, and these are very fast. And unfortunately for us, other road users, and trust me, it's not even only about vehicles, but other road users do not pay attention to us. And I'm being careful with my words. Do not pay attention to us. So someone is turning, they see a motorbike, oh, it's just a bike, and then he turns, he doesn't mind, he doesn't have the patience to wait for you to if it were go, if you actually have the right of way. So I just think that unfortunately for us, we are most vulnerable on the road, and so the threats are so many. It is why sometimes you see a lot of our loved ones stop us when we want to ride, because then they know how other road users treat us on the road. So yeah, I just think that it's hard time people looked out for motorists. It's hard time we pay more attention, see every other person who is on any form of vehicle, as a legal person that's supposed to be on the road, and not just take other some group of people for granted. Yep.
Thelma, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, so apart from the example you've mentioned, what I've also identified with most distractions for motorcyclists is the road. Being on two wheels, one of the biggest threats is to be stopped either by a pothole or by someone using their phone, crossing the road and all that. So the distractions are so many. I wouldn't necessarily stick to drivers driving on the road. So because of that, it makes bikers extra hypersensitive when we are driving. You need to use all your senses, even with your helmet on, to make sure you're hearing, you're seeing, and you are paying attention to your environment. And that becomes a very, very big concern for bikers. So yes.
Agree. Samuel, do you have anything to add to this?
So I personally ride almost every day, and what I see a lot of casualties, like at least every week I see something, a casualty, and any time the accident is about to happen, I get to see it. So in my little time, or like,
I'm sorry, you see it in slow motion.
no, I mean, like I can give you so many examples.
Yeah.
Like I was going to Graphic Road and I saw that there was a car, a big truck with a lot of goods on top, and the tarpaulin covering the car was sort of moving, flying all over around. And because of the kind of bike I use, it's quite big, so you don't maneuver just anyhow. You take your time. And most of the time, when these other small bikes see me, they say, okay, let me just quickly pass him. And majority of the time, they pass me and then they go and enter into the problem. I mean, several times it's happened severally. And the way I dress too, so when they see me, say, oh, I buy now one. There was even an instance, somebody hits my back on the motorway. I mean, we had all stopped. People were crossing the motorway, and the guy just ran into me. He had, I was also rushing somewhere. So the truck driver said, oh, won't you go and attend to the guy? I said,
bye.
Yeah, bye. So, but I mean, as bikers, I would say we have to be patient when we're on the bike. I mean, that's one thing I've seen, because when you're getting into a problem, the faster you're going, the bigger the problem becomes. And I've also seen that majority of the time, like there are a lot of women riding now, and their casualty rate is lower than the guys. The question is because they're a bit more careful. They don't just gun it all the time. Guys, when you just want to gun it. So when you are gunning it, you are gunning yourself into the problem. And you don't want to enter medical facilities here, because any time they hear motorcycle, they even write you off before you even enter the place.
So
regardless of whatever you're riding.
Can we see the bike that someone mentioned? He rides a big bike. Can we see the bike on the screen? I'm sure those watching on Facebook would like to see the bike that makes him look like a bike. But you have quite an extensive experience with riding outside of Ghana. Do you think these threats, the threats you mentioned, is it peculiar to the Ghanaian habit, or when you go outside Ghana, it's the same?
So the Francophone countries have a little respect for the bikes as compared to the Anglophone countries. Yeah, so because they mainly use the bikes as their main source of
you mentioned the countries.
So like Lome, Togo, for instance, Cote d'Ivoire. Okay, but like if you go to the Anglophone side, the Liberia, even when they see the bikes, they get so excited. They don't really ride bikes in that side. But when you look at the Francophone, like Senegal, all those other French countries, yeah, they really appreciate bikes. They look out for bikes. But and even in Ghana, in the north, they also really use bikes for all their stuff, like for transportation, moving stuff around. And even though you see somebody carrying a goat, everything, they use it to do all their transportational needs, and sometimes it gets quite hectic.
Right. So Daniel, from what he said, do you think this bad behavior that we see is peculiar to the people down south?
It's more prevalent here. People don't have time for the motorcyclists in Accra. People want to get you off the road as soon as possible, and I keep saying we have contributed to it. Motorcyclists with our bad behavior over the years have left a sad taste in people's mouth. So you're a nuisance to them. Already when they see you, they are, something is happening. They don't want to see you. And so when you are in a situation and you need help, I'm sorry, nobody helps you, because again, like Sam said earlier, not everybody on a motorcycle is doing commercial stuff. Sometimes, and even though it's not an excuse, those who are doing commercial stuff with motorcycles, their business is time bound, and so they are almost in a hurry to go and come so that they can make more money. And so sometimes I don't blame them too much. They have to feed their families. But we also say that, look, use your head sometimes, because look, the slowest car or the slowest motorcycle on the roads in Accra is faster than the fastest car.
But then if you say this, how about taxi drivers? They are also time bound. They need to also move fast to also make their sales.
Thank you. Very good. Now, the sheer nature of a motorcycle gives them an advantage that the taxi drivers do not have.
Right.
They can weave through tighter spaces. I bet you, if the taxi drivers were motorcycles, they would have done same. They would have done same, because sometimes taxi drivers behave in a certain way that you realize, this guy, if he had a bike, he would have done way worse. And so the sheer nature of the motorcycle and the advantage that comes with riding a motorcycle is what makes it even worse.
Yeah. Can we see the bike that Dan also rides? Perhaps we would also call him a bike. But share with us your experience, the threats, your experiences you've had on the road.
You know what? The hospitals are, when you are sick or when you are in an accident, is a hospital that you have to go to for, to be kept alive. Sam mentioned earlier, I literally had to go down on my knees to beg doctors and nurses that if a motorcyclist comes and an amputation is not anywhere close, don't amputate. We've heard these stories, whether they are stories or they are myths, they have originated as a result of something. Is the people treat motorcyclists with disdain, like these guys don't deserve to live. What has fueled this? It's like I mentioned earlier, we've watched movies, we've seen motorcyclists are the bad guys, and sometimes we also see them happening in real life. And so it's like what they are showing us in the movie is the reality. Yeah. There was an era where people were snatching people's phones left, right, center. I tell you this, most of these people were not motorcyclists. They were thieves, but because the motorcycle will allow them ease of movement, they'll jump on a motorcycle to do it. It's so unfortunate for you to lump all of us up into one basket because somebody used a motorcycle to commit something criminal. You say that all motorcyclists are criminals. It's the sheer nature of a motorcycle. The motorcycle is nimble, it's small, it allows you ease of movement, and that is why they jump on motorcycles to do it.
Let me share with you my experience. I went to a gated community and they had no Akada allowed inside. And with me all dressed up on my motorcycle, they didn't allow me in. So I understand what you mean.
I was coming to the threats that we face.
Yes.
Some of them are made up because of the perception that we have of motorcyclists. So even though, yes, motorcycle, you don't have protection, already you are in danger. But now the people we are sharing the road with don't want to see us. And so it amplifies the threats. That is why we do what we do, try to advocate and let them know that, look, not everybody on a motorcycle is a bad person. It could be your friend from school. Yeah. It could be your mate from work. It could be your lecturer. It could be your salesman. It could be anybody sitting on a motorcycle, because maybe where they live, maybe using cars to commute may not be the best for them, and so the motorcycle makes it easy for them. When you see someone on a motorcycle, they are not necessarily a bad person. Granted, people have used motorcycles to commit atrocities. It's just the sheer nature of a motorcycle.
You know what, Daniel, this is very important. Hold our thoughts. We need to jump into our next segment, the Beginners Auto Workshop segments, where we teach you a few tips on how to save on ching your money. You know what? Driving in Ghana, Accra, Tamale, Kumasi is hot. I don't even know why we call it rainy season. We should call it hot, very hot, end rain season because it gets so hot. And then you're thinking, oh, my air conditioner, the moment you turn it on, that feeling, bliss. But then you're thinking, a small voice in you says, hey, this air conditioner you just put on is draining your pocket too. But is that true? I know that sweet spot, whether you should turn on your AC and chill a little bit or turn it off so you can save and not get into your child's school fees money. I know that feeling, but this is why you're listening to Vroom. I'm going to show you how you can enjoy your air condition while saving money. So, number one, it is true that when you turn on your air condition, the power, your energy, you need more fuel. It is true. Why? Because it's an added load. Imagine you're going up the Broom Mountain, and you carry a school bag, and you carry firewood on your head, and a whole sack of water. You take a lot more energy to climb. Whereas if you just walked casually, you could go all the way to Peduase Lodge, right? So that is why it is true that if you turn on the air condition, yes, the compressor, the air condition is attached to your serpentine belt, which runs on your crankshaft. So yes, you use a lot of power. But do you know that when you're driving and your windows are rolled down, you actually use more energy? Do you remember when we were young, we used to tie the cloth on our waist and hold the other side and run around? That was our first introduction to drag. So what drag does is it pulls your car back whilst you're driving. So when you go above 60 kilometers per hour, you should roll up your windows and turn on your air condition, because with that, you will save more fuel. However, when you're in the city and you're stuck in traffic, you're going less than 60, well, yes, you use fuel, but here's a trick. Turn on your air condition, but there's a button called recirculating button. What the recirculating button does is it shuts out all the hot air that would come in. The reason you need more energy to cool it down. So it shuts out the hot air, keeps the cool air in the cabin. Remember, we don't say inside of the car. We learned this a couple of weeks ago. It's the cabin. It cools the air in the cabin and keeps cooling the air in the cabin. So there'll be a time the air compressor doesn't even have to work anymore because you are chilling without having to spend on fuel. So yes, make this, if you're on Facebook, check it out. Make this button your best friend, and you will be smiling when you get to the petrol station because you don't need to buy anything extra. So that was it for Beginners Auto Workshop. Thank you for staying tuned. We're going to go back into the studio and continue with what Dan was saying. So Daniel, I'm going to come back to you. You were saying something very good. Did you learn something? Wonderful. I'm happy you learned something.
Yeah, so I was saying that the threats that we face are amplified because the people we share the road with don't want to see us live.
But why is that so? Can we say that Ghanaians, we need therapy? Because maybe we don't get over something. Yeah, so perhaps it was.
Well, maybe if there will be a national day of therapy.
We need therapy.
We need therapy, yeah. People visit the iniquities of the fathers on the children.
That's true.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. Somebody does something to you. Look, sometimes I have ridden 90% of my life. I have driven 10% of my life. But sometimes, even when I drive, I see some motorcyclists and they become a nuisance to me. So I can imagine what those who have never ridden before are going through. And so sometimes I understand them. But it is not enough for you to kill someone. An eye for an eye is going to leave the whole world blind.
Yeah.
Some motorcyclists are nuisance, but it doesn't mean that we are all in the same basket. Treat us with care. Be tolerant towards us. Because, look, it could be anybody on the motorcycle. It could be a minister who is late for a meeting and has jumped on the motorcycle. It could be a doctor who is late for a surgery and has jumped on the motorcycle. If you show him and he falls, maybe it's your relative is going to save because you don't know who is behind the helmet. Treat motorcyclists with respect, tolerance, and be merciful towards motorcyclists.
I agree with you. Be merciful towards motorcyclists. So I see you're wearing a t-shirt that says "Look twice" for motorcycle. And if you go on our Facebook page, we are showing one of the campaigns. Look twice. Tell us what this is about. Tell us about it.
So
wait, so you had to stand up to say it. Oh, I like that. Yeah, go ahead.
The scale of protection is tipped in favor of cars and against motorcyclists. I'll take it again. The scale of protection is tipped in favor of cars or any four-wheeled or more vehicle, and it's against motorcyclists. And so we have to make a conscious effort to let people know that we are on the road with them. And so I didn't create it. It's something that has existed in the world for so long. But in our sub-region, I have tried to make it a thing where we do a campaign. Ideally, we should be doing it every quarter, but it's expensive to do. And so I've limited it to doing it once a year. As and when we get more funds, we're able to do it very often. This serves as a reminder to the other road users that you are sharing the road with people who are vulnerable. A slight shove or a slight hit to them can, best case, send them to the hospital, worst case, send them to the morgue. And so we try to remind drivers from time to time that, look, you are sharing the road with other road users. Make a conscious effort to see a motorcycle, because if you touch them slightly, they are in trouble.
Right.
Yep.
Right. That's very touchy. I'm not sure I have the right words to. But Suntaa, I want to zoom. I know you're part of a biking community as well. You do a lot of CSR.
Yeah.
And you see a lot going on. Now, he mentioned that these drivers and road users are not merciful. Do you encounter similar threats?
Yes, we do. Actually, I don't think there's any biker who hasn't encountered, and I can share my personal story. So I've had an accident before. 3 years ago, I was hospitalized. I didn't bath for 26 days. Yeah, it was that bad. So wow. If I show you the scars on my legs and my arms, and yeah, so it's part of biking. But of course, I think I was a bit stubborn because I wasn't geared up, and so that's why anytime I see Dan talk about gearing up, I'm like, this is it, And sometimes it's the very split second. In my case, I had spoken about a particular bike for a very long time. Someone shows up to my doorstep with a bike, and then I say, oh, let me go in and gear up. The person says, oh, just try it around here. So and that was the only day I sat on a bike without gearing up. That was when a car crossed me.
Wow.
Yes, so the driver just turned in the middle of the road, just like that.
Wow.
And yeah, so I had a very terrible experience. Hospitalized, 26 days, no bathing. And so yeah, I've had my own experience. But of course, it just tells you what we go through on the road. And if this driver was cautious, if he was careful, if he had looked in his driving mirror, he would have noticed me. But he didn't, unfortunately. But I think I also need to serve caution to our bikers. Vehicles have blind spots. A lot of the modern vehicles have blind spot detectors that would alert you when there's somebody within a certain radius, right? Unfortunately, for most of the vehicles, they do not. In fact, there are some that have them, but if you don't fall within that radius, it means that you are not seen. So before you overtake a vehicle, please ensure you would have followed him at a distance for some time. Please ensure that you are seeing his mirror. So if you are overtaking from the left, which is the right thing to do, please ensure that you would have followed him for a while and at least get a sense that this driver has noticed you before you pass. Because unfortunately, some of our drivers would not show their traffic gators, and before you realize, they just turn. And that was what happened in my instance. So yes, for the threats, we face them daily. But of course, once something happens to you, you get more cautious, you are more visible on the road, and you start looking out for other people as well.
So for Thelma, he hit it very hard on 26 days of not bathing, and he also said that it is almost normal to have an accident as a rider, almost, because you encounter that. How does it make you feel as a woman?
Because I have experienced something similar to his. Yes. I was
26 days without bathing too?
No, not 26 days. I had to actually do a bit of like 6 months of therapy. This was because I was riding, it was on the Lafarge stretch, and I was slowing down because we realized that getting to where the pedestrian walk was, we had to slow down. So I moved into first gear, and then the vehicle behind me did not notice that everyone was slowing down and just sidewiped me.
So what was the lesson that you learned there? I'm sure there's a
for
lesson.
me, the lesson was, even though I had noticed him in my mirror, I presumed he would have noticed that we were all slowing down, but he was coming at the same pace. And then suddenly when he realized that we had slowed, he wanted to change lanes, so he hit me and I fell, and that injured my tailbone. So I couldn't sit for a bit. Yes, so without bathing, I had to go through some, yes, exactly. So the danger is all over, whether you are slowing down, whether you're on the road, and that is why we keep on emphasizing that they should hear us and see us, because once you are able to do that, we can all consciously enjoy the road, because we are also part of the road users.
I totally agree, but I like the way you flip this conversation. So she flipped it from we being on the vulnerable side to also we should also be careful, because if perhaps she had looked in her mirrors and perhaps she hadn't assumed, perhaps.
Yes, exactly.
So, Samuel, what do you think that motorbike has also do that attracts these threats that we are discussing?
Okay, so quite a number of issues we have is we assume that this person coming has seen me, so let me quickly pass.
Right.
So it's best not to
make assumptions.
Yeah, not to make assumptions, because always it ends up you're already on a minority. So you take your decision and just move on with it. Don't assume that this person coming, he has seen me at a distance. So, or the person coming behind. I also had a similar thing at the same place, but mine was going to be very fatal. Yes, so it was 4 Land Cruisers coming on a convoy. We went to Cape Coast and we're coming back to Accra. We were a couple of riders. So what happened was that I was the last bike. The lights was changing rapidly, and these 4 Land Cruisers, like the way they were driving, it's like everybody should get off the road. It happened, but the last car missed out, and the gap closed, and he was still pushing his way through, and the light changed to red. So there was a Kia truck, and I was also the last bike. Like, well, normally we don't like to jump the red light. The other bikes left, but when I saw the way this guy was coming, and I knew like the way they drive these Land Cruisers, he would definitely attempt jumping the lights. So quickly I had to kick down and pass through the lights, like jump it. And I was looking behind me. The Kia car flipped, like he lost control, because he was slowing down, lost control, and climbed the median, and it was very chaotic. And if I was in that area, it would have been a different story.
So bikers, we owe it to ourselves to also
be
look
very
out ourselves.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah, we should.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sharing his experience, I've actually advocated for when you stop at the traffic lights, and what is going on behind you is as important as what is in front of you. So pay attention to what is coming behind you. If the driver coming behind you doesn't show signs of slowing down, jump the red light, I will commit an illegality to save my life. Yes, I won't stay at the traffic light because the law says I have to stop when it's red. But the driver coming...
In that instance, if I had stopped, it would have been...
I won't stay at the traffic light and let somebody come and kill me. So I've actually called for people. Look, when you're at the traffic light, your eyes should be on your mirror. If a car is coming and it shows signs of not stopping, you'll be able to tell.
Yes.
You'll be able to tell and then move on or move out of the way or something. It's something I really preach on.
What
because
you all have in common is a traffic light issue. When you get to a traffic light, is there a safe spot where you should park? Please let us know.
Am I taking it? Okay. I've on many occasions done videos to show where people should stop at traffic lights. It's not a rule of thumb or anything. It's just something I have come to notice from experience. When I'm at a traffic light, I choose the very ends of the road, closest to the curbs. Even if a car is going to run into me, the impact will not be as great as when I'm in the middle of the road. And so the call is to go as far to the right or to the left as much as you can. Look, there's a culture of motorcyclists not stopping at the traffic lights in this country. We must admit it. And so sometimes the drivers don't even expect us to stop. So you could be there, but the guy is not even
Thinking
you are stopping. So stopping at a traffic light also comes with its own dangers.
Risk.
Yes, you are doing something right, but you are exposing yourself greatly. And so if you are doing it right, do it very, very right so that you are not in so much danger. Yeah. So when you stop at the traffic light, I choose the very end, the far right or the far left. Hardly will you see any driver traveling along that side.
So let me ask you, do you think hawkers on the streets are a threat to riders?
Realistically, they are. Particularly when you see a hawker who hasn't sold anything the whole day, and a passenger bus stops by and it's just about to take off. See, they would do anything to make their sale. So these hawkers, we need to look out for them very greatly. And at that moment, they don't think about who is coming, what is coming. No, they want to grab the money first. You know, I've had instances where the traffic has turned green and I have had to stop because if I didn't, I would hit a hawker. You know, and of course that was dangerous to me because there were vehicles from the back, but I couldn't run into this hawker. So hawkers are people who really do not pay attention to this. Once they are willing to make a sale, they sell first before their safety.
Yeah,
so there are people that we need to look out for anytime we are riding very carefully.
Especially when they haven't sold anything.
When they haven't sold anything. Yeah.
But why must we look out for something that is illegal? Thelma, I want you to answer this one. Something that's clearly illegal. They shouldn't be there. So the policymakers, what do you think they should do about it? How do we regulate this? Do we create a market for them, or how do we stop them from being on the streets?
Yeah, the conversation has always been that way, that we should get the hawkers off the street, but it looks like it's a very Herculean task. And to recreate the culture, we'll need to start building a new narrative, just like bikers are doing that. Right. I think I'll continue to encourage them to build that level of stories, to build the infrastructure for these people to sell in the right way. Even if they would want to place certain time limits on when these things should happen, you need to actually start, because once you drive them off and we don't enforce it, they always return. Mm-hmm. And once they return, they continue to be a danger on the road for road users.
You know, once upon a time, about 10 years, maybe more, it was just people who used to beg. And I still remember there's this particular man at the Jolu Pig Farm traffic lights, and then there'll be one at Oponglo, so you could count them. And then we had the foreigners, the kids coming in. Then we had Jolly Juice sellers coming in, and then everything else just came in. So it's something that we are watching it unfold. And now, instead of we attacking it head on, we are finding ways around it. I know you worked a lot with these policymakers, National Road Safety Authority. How have they supported your campaign in the past?
Before I come to that, to add to what Thelma said about these hawkers and all, in addition to, you know, when someone steals and he doesn't get anybody to buy, don't go and steal. In addition to all that she said, if somebody is seen buying from a car, that person must be dealt with. Because if nobody is buying, they'll stop being on the road. I think that is the easiest thing to do. Even if it's not, maybe it's a trotro, the driver must make sure that nobody from his car is buying from the hawkers. Because he's the driver, it is the driver who will be penalized at the end of the day. If you are not buying from the hawkers, they'll stop being there. If you want to buy something, you go to the market to go and buy. They are really a great, you know, nuisance on the road. They sometimes they jump right in front of you, regardless of what it is. Yeah. And they put us in great danger. I think that the easiest solution would be it's the drivers we can deal with. We have their registration numbers. We know where to find them. And so when we start arresting the drivers, I think it will bring some sanity. All the hawkers will move off the street because there will be nobody to sell to.
I totally agree with you. Yeah. And it's time to wrap up. But before we all wrap up,
you're asking me if DVLA and National Safety supported me.
Forgive me. The most important of it all.
I have from time to time written to them to invite them to all these safety campaigns, and like any other government body, they will tell you that they don't have funds. And so for me, maybe in the next budget, maybe there must be an allocation for road safety, because road safety is a big deal.
Why do they need funds to implement what they've been authorized to implement?
But they don't have money to implement it.
Then they should shut down.
Well, that's a different conversation. It's not supposed to be had here. Who am I, please?
So before we come back to take all your final remarks, let's jump into the next section. It is Now You Know. We call it the Now You Know, the Odogus of this whole Vroom show. Now, you know when you go and borrow your friend's car, you have to take that pretty girl for a trip or two. You get to the filling station, you get to the petrol station, and you don't even know what side of your car the petrol tank is. Yawa. You know whether to get down and go and ask or find out. But I'm going to show you how you can just know without getting down, especially when it's raining. Don't get down from your car. If we can have a picture of it on the screen. So if you look on your instrument cluster, we don't call it dashboard, remember? Instrument cluster, there's always an arrow next to your petrol machine, the fuel pump machine. There's always an arrow. Thank God the manufacturers haven't stopped. So it's either on your left, the arrow will be on your left, or it will be on your right. So that is how you know that. So with this vehicle, the arrow is on my right. I have to always move my arms to know which side is right or left. So the arrow is on my right, so it means it's on your right. So you know, before you get to the filling station, you know how to park. This side of the car is. So now you know. So now you can go on and be the Odogu of your own car. Even if it's not your car, you own it because you know where your fuel tank is. So let's get back into the discussion. Your final words. Real threats to bikers. Thelma, I see you. You know, you're thinking, what should I say? What should I say? So once you put your thoughts together, Suntaa, what are your final words?
So for me, I would say motorbikers are not hooligans as the perception is, whether we like it or not. That's the reality out there. We are not hooligans. We are just a group of people who either enjoy doing it or do it for a cause, for a purpose. And like you mentioned, I belong to a biking fraternity where we do a lot of donations.
What is it called?
Oh, it's called the GS Calvary.
Oh, okay.
Just last week we donated a borehole to a community, and so these are some of the things that we do from time to time. And so bikers are really not hooligans as people think.
Yes,
Yeah,
they give
so-
back to society. So please stop killing them.
Yeah,
Because
so-
they'll come and drill borehole for you.
So let's watch out for motorists when we are on the roads. Whoever you are, whether you are a pedestrian, you are a hawker, you are a driver, look out for motorbikes, particularly when you see a BMW GS. Look out for look out for a GS.
Can we see a photo of the GS?
Look out for a GS.
Suntaa has a GS and Samuel has a GS as well. Let's see what the Abine motor looks like. Please share it on Facebook. And then Thelma, what are your last words?
I think the conversation has been very big, but then I think my final word will always be, please look out for us, hear us, listen for a motorcycle, and also make way. Whenever motorcyclists need your assistance, kindly do help, because we are very, very vulnerable.
Hear us. Samuel, what do you have to add to it?
So, like, they've said it all. I mean, we are in the minority where, like, we are, like, if you look at the bigger space, we are the very small side. So, I mean, they should consider us, should be considerate of us, even though there's quite a number of us creating a lot of problems, and we've all been, unfortunately, associated with that, and people just bash us. But I mean, at the end of the day, you never know who is on that bike, your father, your brother, whoever. I mean, we are responsible people also out there on the motorcycle, so they should look out for us. And as bikers too, I think we should also be patient. Like, sometimes we are a bit in a rush. We should also learn to be patient and not assume, like, we are assumption, like, if this guy coming here seen me or he'll give me way. We shouldn't assume things. Yeah. That's my little.
So, Daniel, what's your final marks?
we live in a country where motorcyclists have been tagged as sinners. In spite of all the sins of the motorcyclists, the solution doesn't lie in killing them. It's just a small portion of motorcyclists that do sinful stuff. I'm calling them sins purposefully. We have a very big community that does a lot of impactful things to the society. Suntaa just said that they donated a borehole. It's not cheap to a whole community. It's because they rode there, they saw that the people didn't have potable drinking water. They've come back there to go and give them a borehole, something that the government must be doing. Motorcyclists are aiding mankind. Look out for us, don't kill us, in spite of all the sins of motorcyclists, because there are good ones amongst us.
Good. Look out for us, don't kill us. There are good ones amongst us. But before we close the show, next week on Vroom, we will be discussing why are Ghanaians so much in a hurry to import used and out of warranty vehicles instead of buying the newly assembled vehicles in Ghana. Once upon a time in the 1940s, even before we gained independence, 1950s, there was a company called the United Africa Company that brought in, they opened the first assembly plants in Tema. That's when we started having the Bedford trucks, if you remember, Bone Shaker, that famous Bone Shaker. And the tagline was, a truck you can be proud of. So what happened to us? What happened to Ghanaians? Why are we not proud of the cars that we are making today? We see people making, over the years, we have seen it. Is that the prices are too high? Could it be the policies that are not in favor? All of this and more next week. So tune in. This is Vroom. My name is Shecanic. Thank you to our guests for wonderful perspective. You know, you made me think a lot. I like the punchlines we got from Thelma, the punchlines we got from Suntaa, Samuel, and Daniel. When is your next campaign?
So Motorcycle Awareness Month is May the world over, and so because of that, we are increasing our visibility on the roads. On the 30th of May, all motorcyclists in Ghana are lining up along the Madina Pantine Adenta stretch to increase our visibility and call drivers to look out for us.
So we, Asaase Radio Vroom, we would be there to look out.
You should be there. You should be there. We'll be glad to.
You should tell the world
see you
about
there.
this.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. This is Shecanic, and do have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe.